Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the Parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the Parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely finish you. Welcome to World Inkers Network Parrot TV's program. I'm Dustin Pickering, your noble and honest host, and this will be episode milestone again. We've reached over 300 episodes of this program. Glad to see you guys out there watching, and please subscribe to our channel. Today we have an interesting discussion on the relationship of the writer to his or her society, their society in general, and why is it so difficult for writers to get acknowledged and to make it into the general society, even though writers provide so much, wonderful knowledge and healing to the society, not only as individuals but through their writing as well. So it's just a very difficult topic to approach, and I know a lot of writers out there. You guys, we all have our shortcomings in our lives, and in our in our financial lives, our love lives, our relationships, our friendships maybe on the rocks. I mean, there's just a list of potential problems that writers could have, and I think we can discuss this. If you want to leave some comments for us during the show. Tell us a little bit about what you're struggling with as well, and give us some ideas. Throw some ideas out there for us. We're looking for some solid thinking people here at World Inkers Network to help and encourage our projects, and we're trying to be practical about our relationship to the world. A lot of writers, they're very passive people. I think they like to withdraw into their private lives, and we've discussed a little bit before the show with me and MUTIU. We discussed a little bit about the fact that a lot of other people that are out there, a lot of thinking people, economists, whether they're economists or they're pro wrestlers, sports people, rock stars, they get involved in politics and the social life and try to provide solutions. Now, why do writers not necessarily do that? And should they do that? What do you guys think out there? If you're watching the show today, let me know what you think. Should writers be involved? Should creative writers specifically be involved in the political platforms? I know, for instance, you can, certain artists, I can say Andy Warhol, for instance, he was able to navigate the political and social realities of his day in order to further his artistic career and be recognized as a great influence in the culture. And it seems like that's what it takes a lot of times, is to get some recognition from the political and social reality that we're living in. And of course, writers, I mean, let's just take, for instance, Charles Dickens. I use him as an example. He writes a lot about social problems. We want to reduce the misery that people experience in the world and the struggles they face and make them a lot easier. So the problem would be, in writing these things out, you recognize that there's a problem. And that's one of the first steps in therapy too, is to recognize there's a problem before you can even go forth into solving that problem. You have to know it's there. You have to be willing to address it. And society has to be willing to recognize that there are issues that need to be resolved. And let's see what we have. We got MUTIU on board here to discuss with me a little bit more about the practical aspects and a little bit about some of the ways writers have resolved situations in their times. So, welcome to the show, MUTIU. You're our producer, and you're never really at the front here, but here you are.
Thank you for having me again. I love to always be behind the camera, but days like this, one of the most interesting days for me to explore the world of the creative writers. This is a very, very interesting topic that every writer, if you ask a writer, a true creative writer, if you ask them their major challenge, they'll tell you that they've got everything that has to do with solving the problem of the world, theoretically. But how the society view them and how the society provide the opportunity for them to practically put that in place is the major problem. Being recognized by the society or being given the opportunity to display what they put in the paper is one major problem. Number two, some say that some writers themselves have problems. They are theoretical. They are too academic. That's why sometimes when you argue to a certain extent, they will say this has become an academic discussion. That means it's theoretical. It will stop in the conference room or the seminar room. That's all. They would just argue and argue, write a lot of paper and nothing to put in place because they believe that people of papers are only papers in their own way of life. They cannot put that into practice. And this is very unfortunate. And most of these people you're talking about train the economists you're talking about. They train the political scientists. They train even the sportsmen, people in different fields of studies have become leaders of different parts of the globe. But why is it impossible for a creative writer to get involved or be actively recognized? I know that a few of them have been trying these days. We've seen some actors and actresses in Nigeria, in Ghana, and some other parts of the globe getting involved in politics. Some of them have become legislators, but their voice are not still heard. When they get there, you no longer hear them anymore. They become active on the screen when they are acting, but as they enter the system, they just turn to become something else. You no longer see the true picture of what they have been displaying on the screen. What you see is that it's just total disappearance and then amassing wealth for themselves and their family. This is very unfortunate. Another part that I also notice is that I feel that the world is not really because we're part of the world. It is the world of the creative writers themselves are not fair with themselves. They are one way or the other putting things outside where they're not supposed to put it. For instance, writers don't support writers. You see some creative writers, if you ask them to read even ordinary posts online, they will ask you about that post again. You want people to read your work, but you don't read the work of other writers. How do you expect it to work? And you claim to be a creative writer. You are not a creative reader. How do you expect yourself to improve? Or even an ordinary reader, if you don't want to be a creative reader, at least be a reader. This is frustrating sometimes when you put something, just very little things online, about creative writing. They will come back to you and ask you the same question. If you don't put it in the comment, they will come to your inbox and expect you to repeat exactly what you've already put out for them to read. Mm-hmm. It's frustrating. So writers themselves need to check themselves, Nothing will change if you don't change yourself. So that's one. One other thing that one of the complaints you see writers saying is that despite all their efforts, struggle up and down to write and gather ideas in society, solve the problem in society, they're still very poor. Why? Why do you feel they are poor? This question has been repeatedly presented in the public again and again. But I've not seen a concrete solution to this. Nobody has been able to give us concrete solution. This is why Wordicast Network show will not just end today, as far as today's show is concerned, without providing the solution together. If you are watching us, if you have a solution to the problem of creative writers, or you have an idea you want to share with us, please share your comments, and we'll definitely put it on the screen. And when we share the ideas together, we're not just only going to discuss this on the show today with me and Dustin. No, we're talking to creative writers. Solutions must be preferred. Where there's a war, there must always be a way. Where there's a problem, there must be a solution. And World Inkers Network will never be part of those that will be complaining again and again. And I guess when we get to the aspect of solution, we'll get to that part. But this is what I just observed as far as creative world is concerned. Or what do you think, Dustin?
Well, as regarding writers and politics, I do believe, at least I can only speak for myself, that I prefer private life. And so I'm not very public, and I'm not very good and skilled at navigating social realities as much. And also writers tend to be very sensitive and humane, and politics is the last place you want to be if you're sensitive and humane. It's a place of attack. All the attack dogs are out at you. And if you're really someone who really wants to make a true difference in the reality, in the crises of the day, it seems like that politics would, being involved in the political reality is a really tough place to be. And it doesn't seem like even the politicians know what they're doing a lot of times. And so I think that writers tend to be very private people. We tend to be reserved. We're typically introverted. I think that's one reason we write, and I think the good thing about writing is it preserves across the ages and the most beatific language and most beatific, format that you can find, the realities that are faced. And it seems like it's a lot of the same problems throughout the ages. They multiply over time, and then someone comes along and, as we were discussing earlier, in Shakespeare's work, the class divisions and how they are, during that period, they were really rough and tense, and how Shakespeare kind of like portrays them. And so when you bring the reality, as they say, the truth cannot be hid for long. When you bring the reality to the front and show that this is what's going on in our society, people, when they look in and they see that mirror to themselves, they may reflect more. So what is a good way we can popularize such things like literature to bring in people, to make people reflect more on these realities instead of just complaining about what their lives are particularly full of. I mean, I can complain about my own life a lot, but it won't provide me any solutions, right? So I mean, what can we do to show some of these conflicts that are occurring in our society, and especially post-pandemic, and the fact that we're facing what they call the secular apocalypse of nuclear war and climate change, and how can we actually actively navigate such realities? This is one of the most pressing difficulties of our times. I mean, how do we go about thinking outside the box on these subjects? And that's what writers and creative writers specifically do. It's really hard to implement any kind of idea and make it a reality, and I think it takes a lot of time. And once you've recognized the problem, which I think is sort of like a diagnostic, you see that there's this issue here. What can we do? And writers, the first step is they point it out. They point it out and they hammer at it, and they say, this is what we need to do. This is what needs to be done, or this is what we have to recognize this is the realities we're facing. So I think, the creative writer definitely has an impact, even if it's not immediate and it's not, forthright. It's there. It floods the society. It comes on. It's an undercurrent. It's the undertow of the sea, as you could say. If society is like a big sea, an ocean, the undertow is there to kind of pull under all the problems and bring them in and put them into scope. So I think creative writers are really good at observing, because they tend to be outside looking in. And as I like to say, sometimes you can be in the house and not see everything, or not, you're too involved in that situation to really recognize everything. But someone looking in the window, I don't recommend this. I don't recommend peeping Tom, but if you're looking in the window and you see it, you can see all across, you can see everything. And whereas when you're deeply embedded in that situation, you're not necessarily going to recognize all the things that are in that position in your space. So I think that it's good to have people that are on the outside, that are not necessarily involved politically or socially, who are looking and just going, hey, I see something that other people don't see. And that's where genius comes in. I mean, there's not very many geniuses or, brilliant minds out there who can, see these things, or even have, some kind of idea of what to do. But as a collective whole, a society, to mobilize people to do anything is really troubling endeavor. And it takes, I guess, a militant general of some kind, Scott Ritter, to get people to 220,000 people to watch the show. But yeah, I mean, if we just want to get people involved in what we're doing, it's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to help people think a little bit outside their box. And I mean, we can feel bad for ourselves. That's fine. I mean, that's human nature. Sometimes you want to sit down and beat yourself up and feel bad about what your life is doing. But ultimately, you have to get up and Muhammad Ali, put some punches in, I mean, you gotta do it. You can't, you gotta try. We can just
one thing I see is this. I like to look at it from the academic perspective, from my own background, and from the creative perspective at the same time, looking at the reality in the world. The first question you ask yourself is, how do people perceive us as creative writers?
Right.
How do we perceive ourselves too, as creative writers? I think outsiders, those who are not into the creative writing world, believe that creative writers, or writers generally, are like spectators. They sound like the best players when they are watching footballers playing on the field. They'll be telling them, why can't you do it this way? How could you do it this way? It should have been this way. You could have passed to this other guy. But tell them to go to the field and display that, they wouldn't even be able to hold the ball for 1 minute. So that's the perspective of the outsiders as far as writers' world is concerned. They believe that they have the solution to the problem in paper, but they cannot practically demonstrate that. You will see one of bestsellers of maybe financial accountant. I mean, if you go into the academic world, professors of accounting and finance are extremely poor. They are not the richest in the world, right? But they teach you how to manage money. Whereas they don't know, or they don't have the practical demonstration of that for you. They can only make reference to somebody else. Same thing applicable to creative writers. They talk about corruption, etc., but they live within the corrupt system. Right. Even in academics. Within the academics, you see a lot of corrupt or prisoner activities going on within the system. And they're part of it. Some of them have become vice chancellor, the president of the universities, department heads, etc. What have they been able to display within the time they serve as administrator within their demography? That's a problem. Now, we still have creative writers outside that demography. You're talking about the spoken word artists, you're talking about the actors and actresses, you're talking about comedians, you're talking about musicians. They're also part of the creative world. You know, you're talking about songwriters, you know, the script writers. You know, you're talking about poets, the playwrights, you know, novelists, etc. Check their work. You feel you are in another world on its own. They solve problem of the rich, the poor, the young, the old, etc. But the problem is they've not been able to solve their own problem. And we identify different problems: socio-political problem on its own, and economic problem on its own. Within the writers' world, we're disunited. Some people are competitive, some are cooperative. And that's the world generally. In academic setting, as a teacher, we believe that you don't always teach using competitive approach. You can always, sometimes you use a cooperative approach. That's why we do the group work. We initiate group work for students in the classroom, and sometimes we ask them to do the test. That is competitive, but the group work is cooperative. We have the problem of cooperative part. Most of the creative writers are interested in competition. They want awards. They want just to be recognized. They want to be given titles, you know. But we don't blame those people. That's their way of life. They are just competitive in their way of life. We should give them platform too. The cooperative-minded creative writers do not want to associate themselves with the competitive ones. They believe that those people, they just like certificate, therefore they're not supposed to be part of us. No, we should recognize their strengths, look at their weaknesses, and convert it to strength for creative world. That is what business-minded people do. When they look at their competitors in the market, they identify their strengths, they identify their weaknesses. We call it the SWOT analysis. You know, as a creative writers, I've also entered the entrepreneur world, so I understand some of this. And we have a lot of creative writers like us too, who are managers that are just blessed naturally as creative writers. Some of them are medical doctors. They are in other field of studies. But the problem is we haven't been able to find a solution. This is why the capitalists are milking us. Capitalists like the owners of Amazon and some other publishing companies, they are milking the creative world. They are getting billions of dollars from creative writers, and unfortunately, creative writers are becoming wretched every day because they only have the solution in paper. They've not been able to provide the solution in the reality. They have the problem with matching the Aristotelian world with the Platonian world. Remember what led to the clash between Aristotle and Plato. Plato came with, as the teacher of Aristotle, came with the school of idealism in philosophy. You get what I'm saying, Dustin? And Aristotle realized that there's a problem with idealism. Everything cannot be idealistic. We have to be realistic. So he came with the school of realism. All right? And the problem we have as writers now is how to come up with a meeting point between the school of idealism in the creative world and the school of realism. How to blend the Aristotelian world with the Platonian world. That's the problem we have. We have the solution to the problem of the world, but in paper, but we have not been able to design the best way to get into solving it in the real world. When you talk about the concept of corruption, vividly displayed and solved properly, you see them in creative writings. They will identify a leader in the past in a creative way and display visually, you know, orthographically, the lifestyle of the person, or they will even create a world of a corrupt leader and try to even solve the problem of handling the corrupt leadership system in their writing before they end the story. That's why you remember last week when we were talking about the classical structure of story writing.
Mhm.
From the opening, we did not stop until we got to denouement, which is resolution. We always have a solution to a problem for outsiders, but we don't have a solution to ours. Now, from what you say, what is the way forward? Now, we identify the problem. The problem is, one, there's no unity among the creative writers, right? And two, we also have a problem of identifying what step to take to come into the reality, the real world. I think before I go deeply into this, because it's something we need to discuss, and if possible, we encourage some of our viewers to get into, I think we need to go for a break, and maybe we should listen to some of our creative writers. So let's go for a break. And then when we come back, we will see what we can do to solve the problem. We have identified the problem, and then the next is to identify the solution to the problem. So let's go for a break.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely finish you. Welcome back to the show, World Inkers Network. We're discussing the fate of creative writers. And we have MUTIU OLAWUYI here with us in the studio. He is our producer. And we were discussing earlier in the program some of the problems we face as creative writers, especially from the business side and the social realistic side of the life of a creative writer. And so we're going to continue to discuss this problem and see if we can propose some ideas as to what we can do to resolve some of these situations we face as creative writers. So MUTIU, would you like to take over from here?
Yeah, thank you for having me again on the screen this week. As I was saying earlier before we went for the break, now we're looking for a solution. Within the next 30 minutes, we should identify that. From the problem, of course, we should have been able to know what's solution. Number one, we need to be united. We're disunited as creative writers. A lot of people have created different organizations, but if you check internally, deeply, you will realize that majority of them only set it up to project themselves. In fact, some are so ignorant, or let me say, how will I describe them? They are so self-centered in a way that they don't even care. They are so careless that they put even their logo, in their logo, the logo of the organization, their own picture, to show you that it's meant for me, you cannot hijack it. So that means that the essence of setting up that organization is just to promote themselves and sell their name. Until we remove egocentrism, egoistic ideology out of our mind and our way of life, nothing will change. That's number one. We need to be sincere with ourselves. We need to look for a way to come up with a unified setting. The politicians have their own platform. And even though they have their own personal interests, their organization does not belong to anybody. That is like United Nations, for example. Muslim groups, Christian groups, they have their own different platform. The Catholics have their own, but it is not named as the name of somebody. It's named Catholic. Nobody bears Catholic. It's an organization on its own, a religious organization. OIC is a religious organization. United Nations is an intergovernmental organization. Without anybody being attached to it, until we're able to have that global picture and an association that has that global image. And that's what we wanted to achieve with World Inkers. You will see that it has nothing to do with DUSTIN Pickering. You can never see the image of DUSTIN Pickering as part of the logo of World Inkers. No. The same thing, you can't see MUTIU OLAWUYI there, or you see Jill, Sharon, Kimelma, and the rest of the ambassadors of creative writers. No. What we had in mind while we set up that World Inkers is to give the voice to creative writers. And that's why we set up this one. Nobody pays us. If you think that we're getting paid, you are making a mistake. We're not getting a dime from what we're doing. All these things you're seeing, inviting writers on the show, using our internet service, electricity, etc., getting connected every time to make sure that we voice for creative writers. Nobody pays us a dime. And this is what we're looking at. We're looking for creative-minded people that are selfless, no service one, that can sacrifice for the rest of the creative world. And we also want the fellow creative world to, at least, if you are not adding value to this, appreciate what we do by not condemning or by just sharing what the content of whatever we provide for the world. In this way, you are helping other creative writers that we have interviewed on the show. The same thing applicable to when we realize that printing becomes very difficult for creative writers. Even after printing, publicity is another problem. Promoting their work becomes a problem. We also set up World Inkers Printing and Publishing. And that's why, if you notice during the break, you heard, give us a shot, would surely convince you. What we're trying to do there is to let you know that you've got a way to solve your problem when it comes to printing and publishing. Just attempt contacting info.worldinkers@gmail.com, and I'm sure you will be happy by the time we finish with it. What we're trying to do is to have a platform for creative writers to publish their work in any language. That's why we welcome ambassadors from any part of the globe. If you are, it's not compulsory you are an English speaker or writers in English language. If you are Arabic speakers, Italian speakers, French speakers, you can always contact us. We have ambassadors within the platform, the network, that can also help in that regard. And if you want to be an investor too, it's open. This World Inkers Network, World Inkers Printing and Publishing, is not for anyone, it's for everyone. If we see any organization that has the same vision with us, we're ready to collaborate with them. We're not ready to compete with anyone. We're not interested in competing, but we're interested in collaborating. That's our own perspective of the world. But we welcome those who are interested in competition. We can create a platform for people to be competing as poets, as novelists. And if we see people who can sponsor and give them award, we're fine with that. We're not going to throw you away. This is one solution we're trying to provide. Another way I feel we can solve the problem is if we see potential leaders among creative writers, we should support them as fellow creative writers. We should should even let them know that their potentials and encourage them to start from wherever they find themselves to get involved in the civic activities in their community. Don't just be involved in writing in the creative world online. Attend meetings, socio-political meetings in your environment that have issues that affect your community members. Be part of it. Don't be only one. You're only interested. Don't be only interested in sending messages, writing, etc. No, share your voice orally. That's why we gave this platform for you to speak, not just only to write. Our brain is not in our book alone. And these people will not give us the opportunity unless we show them that we have what it takes to lead to. But not only in paper alone. If not, they are going to be using us. That's why you see an ordinary person who doesn't even have half of what we have in academic world will be the one to recruit us when he becomes a leader. And then we'll tell you to become his personal assistant, to be writing, the press leader, etc. It doesn't make sense. We need to wake up. So if we can do this, I think there will be a way forward. We have tried our part because I believe in pragmatic approach to solving a problem, not just theoretical approach. Some people will say something and they will not act upon it. We have provided a platform, a TV show that can give writers opportunity to voice their mind, to talk about issues that affect them and their society. That's one step we have taken. Another step we have taken is to set up a publishing company for creative writers. And mind you, this platform is free of charge. The word says that if you don't charge, people will not appreciate. I don't believe that. I still believe that maybe it is the orientation, lack of orientation that people have. If we give them proper orientation, I believe that things will change for the better. We cannot continue like this and be only part of those that will be complaining and be behind the scene, just talking, building the word or building mansion in the sky without us having it on earth. Enough is enough. Creative writers will wake up and look for solutions. If you have a solution to the problem and you want to share with us, Literary Corner at newyorkparrot.com is there. You can always contact Dustin Pickering at literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. Share your ideas. We will definitely project it. We will contact you. We can sit down and have a meeting, even if it has to do with, if it is not going to be, we may not need to put it on here. As other people in other parts, other worlds do. We can sit down and look for the way forward. We are interested in sharing ideas with you, and we'll definitely see the solution. I believe that if we can't solve the problem for ourselves today, we should prepare to solve the problem for our generation unborn, who will also become creative writers. We cannot continue to keep complaining again and again. We should find a solution. Shakespeare has tried. Charles Darwin and the rest of creative writers or writers across the globe have tried their own best, and they left this world with paper to solve problems. If you check Shakespearean text, it's more of bringing the concept of love to solve the problem between the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-not, the weak and the strong, etc. What are we going to leave for our generation unborn? What will be our legacy? We are here today where we have the technological ideas. With modern technology, we are connected easily. What can we do to utilize this modern instrument we have to solve the problem of our fellow creative writers? This is my challenge to my fellow creative writers across the globe. Get in touch with us. We will definitely give you the voice.
So we have about a minute left. We have about a minute left in the program, so I'm going to close out. And thanks for watching, everybody out there. Subscribe to our channel. That's the first step. Subscribe and watch what we have and share the content if you like it. We definitely want some support from you guys. If you would like to donate to help us out, you can donate us at paypal.me/nyparrot. That's paypal.me/nyparrot. There it is right there at the support banner. And if you want to be in touch with me, Dustin Pickering, as a guest on the show, we have it every Tuesday at 2 p.m. and every Saturday at 10 a.m. We want to interview you. Yes, you out there writing. We want you on the program. And you can get in touch with me Dustin Pickering at Literary Corner at NewYorkParrot.com. And we will have the site up shortly again, so don't worry about that. It will be available pretty soon. And remember, if you're not writing today and tomorrow's a new day, hey, sometimes stress and situations don't allow for the writing moment, but it will come. It will come to you. So get to writing and have a great afternoon. Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing.